Imagine being a young prince, locked high up in a cold stone tower by your own uncle. You haven't committed a crime, but your royal blood is a guaranteed death sentence. This brutal cycle of betrayal, backstabbing, and family slaughter defines the reality of 15th century England. This was the era of the Plantagenet dynasty. The royal family had fractured into two heavily armed rival branches: the House of Lancaster, represented by a red rose, and the House of York, represented by a white rose. When tensions finally snapped and these factions went to war, you have to ask, why couldn't they just fight a normal military campaign? Why not negotiate a treaty, draw up some borders, and let the losers live comfortably in exile? The answer lies in the unforgiving math of absolute power. In a system built on divine right, an opposing peace treaty is practically worthless. As long as a rival family member with a legitimate claim to the crown continues to draw breath, your grip on the throne is inherently unstable. In this geopolitical framework, sharing power simply does not compute. Possessing royal blood without actually wearing the crown is a zero-sum equation. It turns you into an automatic target. This zero-sum logic appeared across the globe, repeating in cultures that had never met. In 1527, the Inca Empire in South America faced this exact crisis. Following the death of the emperor, a massive civil war erupted. The contenders were his sons, splitting the mighty empire. Huáscar controlled the south, while Atahualpa dominated the north. From a modern perspective, dividing the massive territory and ruling as wealthy neighboring kings seems perfectly logical, but a consolidated power structure cannot function with two heads. The ensuing struggle was devastating. The conflict only ended when Atahualpa finally broke his brother's armies, capturing and eliminating Huáscar entirely. Because absolute power demands a complete monopoly, a monarch's closest biological relatives immediately become their highest priority geopolitical rivals. The psychological toll of maintaining this monopoly is immense. The constant, looming threat of usurpation predictably breeds a terminal state of paranoia. Look at the Persian Emperor Nadir Shah. After a lifetime of military campaigns and looting territories, he lived in such intense terror of being assassinated that his mind fractured. To secure his position, he ordered his own son blinded. We see this exact same pathology in the English War of the Roses. When the sitting Yorkist king died, he left behind a young son who was supposed to inherit a newly stabilized kingdom. Instead, the boy's uncle, Richard III, made his move. Bypassing the legitimate heirs entirely, Richard stepped in, locked the young prince and his younger brother in the Tower of London, and seized the crown for himself. The boys vanished. Absolute power creates an isolated, terrifying environment where preserving the throne justifies any cruelty against your own flesh and blood. The final rule of absolute rule is perhaps the most dangerous. The deadliest threats emerge from within your most trusted inner circle. Take the 16th century Japanese unifier, Oda Nobunaga. While resting safely at the Honnoji Temple, Nobunaga was suddenly surrounded. His own highly trusted general, Akechi Mitsuhide, had betrayed him, bringing a massive army of 13,000 men to wipe him out. Hopelessly trapped, Nobunaga was forced to take his own life. In military strategy, an inner circle betrayal functions exactly like a flanking maneuver on a battlefield. To understand the mechanics of this, we need to look at Julius Caesar at the Battle of Pharsalus. Caesar's infantry was massively outnumbered. Pompey planned to use his 6,000-strong cavalry to loop around and hit Caesar's exposed flank. But Caesar hit a small infantry force at a slanting angle. Pompey's charging cavalry slammed into this hidden block, entirely shattering their lines. Those same mechanics of a sudden flank attack played out at the end of the War of the Roses, when Richard III finally faced off against Henry Tudor at the Battle of Bosworth Field. Tactically, Richard held the larger army, but the battle was decided by a sudden betrayal. The powerful Stanley family had been sitting neutrally on the sidelines. At the critical moment, they charged directly into the flank of Richard's royal guard, killing the king right there in the mud. Raw troop numbers, historical alliances, and deeply trusted loyalty are entirely meaningless variables when absolute power is finally within reach. Once the dust settled at Bosworth Field, a critical question remained. How does a society ever escape this perpetual loop of dynastic slaughter? The victor, Henry Tudor, pursued a different outcome. Instead of hunting down every remaining Yorkist rival, he claimed the crown and married a woman from the opposing House of York. Blending the two bloodlines together mathematically neutralized the rival claim. By merging the houses, he removed the structural requirement for family slaughter, finally ending the cycle of warfare. History shows that a ruler's greatest threat rarely comes from a foreign invader across the sea. When absolute power is at stake, the deadliest enemy is almost always sitting right next to you at the dinner table.